The lessons you learn from a sports career often come from what's around the sport and not just from the game itself. Sometimes you land in the mess of broken systems and power and politics, and you have to make the best of it. Today we'll meet Marlene Harnois, who found herself in the middle of this kind of leadership mess around the London Olympics. Now, she didn't just manage to win an Olympic bronze with that. She took it beyond herself and did so much more. So stay tuned. This is Athlete Story and I'm your host, Anja Bolbjerg, former world top 10 skier in moguls and freeride skiing, now way into life after sports. I invite you to join me and other former athletes here on Athlete Story for resources to help you repurpose your sports career for new exciting opportunities after sports. After winning the Olympic bronze medal, Marlene Harnois found herself deselected from the French team, even though she was still ranked top of the world. Now, she tried to see how she could keep competing, but when the leadership just simply got dirty and personal, she decided it was time to retire. Now, this full picture of the broken system she was operating in and the leadership conflict of interest didn't really get exposed till years later when other stories like this surfaced. All this time was hard on Marlene, but what do champions do? They move on, right? And so did she, as you'll hear in this chat about retirement and creating new opportunities for yourself by giving first. So let's welcome Olympic medalist, decorated Knight of the Order of Merit by the French president, champion for peace under the Peace and Sport organization, and yes, MBA candidate at the International University of Monaco. Without further ado, Marlene Harnois.
Hi Marlene.
Hi.
Thanks for coming. I'm so happy you could make it.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure.
So before we dive into a little bit of your sports story and all the merits, I'd like to hear about the time when you retired, because you retired right after getting a bronze medal at the London Olympics, right?
Yes. London Olympics has always been my dream. I started Taekwondo as a little girl. I was 4 years old in Canada. And when I was 14 years old, I was invited by friends to come and train here. So I moved to France. And I was always carried by these Olympic dreams. And I won 2 titles as a European champion, world champion at the University Games. And when I medaled in London, for me, it was the best moment ever in life. It was more difficult, the relationship I had with my coach and the federation. I wanted to go back to Canada, but couldn't get the release. So I retired in a very different context because it's something it just happened, and I was still ranked number 1 in the world. I wanted to pursue, but it happened, and I just wanted to make the best out of it. And while I was an athlete in France, I was very involved with associations such as Anja Bolbjerg, so I would visit hospital children every month. I was always very involved, and I always like to contribute to causes I care about and inspire kids and share my medal, because I always felt that the most precious value of a medal, of a victory, lies on the impact it has on others, the values it promotes, and its power to inspire younger generation. I always felt that was the true meaning of a victory. And I wanted to share that. I had always dreamed of doing a humanitarian mission one day. So when I retired, I felt I wasn't ready to transit into a professional career yet. So I just felt like, okay, I'm going to take some time off, do the humanitarian mission I'm really passionate about, and I'll figure it out. So I decided to go to West Africa because my sport, Taekwondo, is very popular in West Africa. So I went to Senegal first, then I went to Ivory Coast. I was visiting school, so I was touring in school. I was sharing my story.
Did you go on your own, or were you
I called friends. It was very random. I called friends that I knew from the national team there, or other athletes from West Africa that had trained with us in France for some times. So I called them and I said, I want to do it with humanitarian. They said, yeah, come over, just come. And so I started touring in school, helping Federation with doing seminars in suburbs. And then I went to Ivory Coast, and same, I was doing a Taekwondo seminar in a club, but that was in the very modest suburbs and communities, the poorest communities in near Abidjan. It's called Kumasi, the community. And I met 2 athletes, incredible talent, prodigies. And when I walked in the club, it was, I call it a club, but it's actually, technically it's a school backyard on concrete, no mats, no equipment. There were holes everywhere on the concrete, so when you try to step, because in Taekwondo we're moving, you can sprain your ankle or twist it, because it was difficult. The conditions were very, very difficult. And there it was, 30 athletes, amazing talent, like I had never seen before. Like, it was amazing. And their energy, their values, they were so respectful, they were so welcoming. And when I saw them, I saw two of them and I said, oh my God, they could be Olympic champion. And I started saying, as soon as I saw them, I knew they had the potential of becoming Olympic champions. They had so much talent and so much drive and determination and courage. I said, okay, well, there goes my transition into a new project. So I decided to launch a foundation in Abidjan to promote sport, but also education. So I started my foundation, stayed in the country for a few years, going back and forth, but really doing the training sessions with them, supporting them, trying to just be a mentor on their Olympic journey. And it was funny because nobody believed that it would be possible, ever. Everybody told me, but the country never had an Olympic medal, an Olympic gold in any sport. It was never an Olympic woman medalist ever in the history. So they all thought I was this naive, very enthusiastic white girl discovering the country. And so they didn't take me seriously at first, but they all saw that I was very nice. So they supported my project. Well, everyone around, they just thought, like, everybody saw me walking. So I was this Olympic medalist from France, white, that was walking around in the suburbs for years in Africa, going to training, cleaning the floors because we have to brush all the sand off the concrete before we train, struggling to have mats brought to Ivory Coast, equipment, electronic boards. When it rains, there's no roof, so it's complicated to train. So it was very difficult condition, and nobody could understand why I was going through all this struggle. Like, it made no sense. Like, even my friends, nobody understood. Like, why are you going through all this struggle? I was like, because I just know it. And after all this time, they both qualified for the Rio Olympic Games in 2016.
Wow.
And on the same day, August 19th, Shek Sisay became the first Olympic champion in the history of Ivory Coast. And Ruth Babi became the first woman Olympic medalist.
Wow.
So that was a beautiful day. That was
And were you there with them?
Of course. I was standing by the ring, and I was actually doing the commenting on French television at the same time. And when Shek won, it was the last second. It was 1 second left to the fight, and he was losing by 2 points. And he scored a headshot on the last second. And on the comment on French television, I'm saying, 1 second, is it possible? Ah, it is possible! And at the same time, it is possible. And at the same time, I removed my headphones and I started running to the ring. I jumped on him. And oh my God, he was sweating. But it was okay. And I just jumped on him, and then he ran with his flag from Ivory Coast, and then he fell. He ran, but the stadium was huge, so he started sprinting with his flag, and then he ran like many times, and then he just crashed on the ring. And then he came back, and oh my God, it's the most beautiful day ever. The emotion I felt that day, it was so much more powerful than when I won my medal, because when I won, of course, it was great and it was my dream. But to share all the experience, and to share all the journey, and see them succeed and win gold, it's the best feeling ever. It's the best feeling ever. And even at the Sportel this year, he was the president of the jury. So now the rules are completely reversed, where he's the Olympic champion. He's always the one. He's introducing me now. But I'm so grateful for that, and the link and the experience. It's the best life experience ever.
So have they continued?
Of course. Next year, The following year, Ruth Babi, the woman, became the first world champion in the history, man and woman, first gold ever. That was in 2017 in South Korea, the World Championships, and they're both qualified for Tokyo 2020. So I'll be there with them this summer to watch and to support.
And are they studying?
Yes. They're both studying. I tell them how important it is because now I'm back at school this year for an MBA at the International University of Monaco. I tell them it's very important to have a second project, and also it's very important for me that they give back to the community, they contribute when they retire as well.
Yeah.
So I want them to prepare as much as they can. So they're doing, for now, they're doing Professorat Sport, they got that. And they're heading for international sport management. And then hopefully an MBA one day. So they're good. They're perfect. And
hearing all of this now, I understand why you consider yourself a woman and not just a
and
girl.
not a girl. No, but sometimes I feel like a girl. Sometimes I feel like a girl because I feel like a girl when people ask me if I work. I feel like a girl because I feel like I've never had a job in my life because I've always been so passionate about what I do that every day for me is still girly. Like I'm so passionate and so driven, love what I do. So after when they won, they came back to the country. They got decorated by the president. It was huge. It was huge in Ivory Coast and in the region of West Africa along. So that's how I got, and then I got involved with peace and sport because I felt that the goal I had with my foundation that I had launched to accompany them had been achieved. And I wanted to have an impact other places in the world as well to inspire and to give back. And I got involved with peace and sport. I became a champion for peace in 2016. So Peace and Sport is an organization. It's based in Monaco, and it's placed under the patronage of His Highness Prince Albert II. And the goal is to promote sport as a tool for development and peace worldwide. So. And there's a club, it's called the Champion for Peace. We're 100 champions. There's Didier Drogba, Blaise Matuidi, football players, but there's also Novak Djokovic, and the most famous one in tennis. There's athletes from Taekwondo, all the sport. And there's Eden Nice and Baiva and track and fields. Pernilla Luberg, you probably know in ski. And I just felt that so many athletes were involved. So many athletes had organization, associations. So many athletes were contributing, and I just felt that it would be nice once a year to unite all these athletes that have charities and organization and do a field action all together to give more impact and give more power to the message that sport has to be used for peace. So I decided to launch a project that's called the Caravan for Peace. And we did the first edition in 2017. And Ladji Doucouré, world champion in track and fields, came along. Dabamou Keita, world champion from Mali in Taekwondo. And Baladi from Senegal, they came along. And we toured in the country in Senegal. And we had events to promote sport with the kids, but also I felt it was important to have sustainability in our project. So what we did is we inaugurated water fountains near a sports stadium. Awesome, because at first I was touring and I was promoting sport, but then I felt, oh wow, what if we don't have water? So then it's instead of contributing to the goods, then there's a risk attached to it, and I wanted to limit the risk. So I figured, okay, well, if we put water fountains near sport fields, then now the kids, obviously they're gonna go to the sport field to get the water back. So I thought it was a nice link to both. So we did that. And in 2019, we went to Mali, and we visited displaced camps. We toured the region, and Mali is it's going through a very complicated situation right now. And it's the power of sport was just to give a smile on those kids and make them dream, make them hope, give them happiness. If sport has the power, it should be shared.
So did you ever think, how can I make a difference? How is it even possible? Little me, kind of. Does that thought ever?
It's that's what drives me. It's the impact, or or the story I had with Czech and Room, the two athletes from Ivory Coast. It's not the mats that I brought or the equipment that made a difference.
Mhm.
What made a difference, I think, is the fact that I believed in them and I supported them and I cheered for them. And I think that for them, they believed in themselves even more because they thought, oh my God, if an Olympic champion believes we can do it and make it possible, and she's running under the rain with us, wow, then maybe it's possible. And I think that it's that faith that pushed them to believe in themselves and become the heroes they are now today. So I always felt that just supporting someone, inspiring someone, a word that had a power to develop someone, and I just wanted to use that power to sport and see as many kids as I could and just tell them, for me it was Taekwondo, but I think that at the end of the day, I love sport obviously, but at the end of the day, it's try to have a passion, whether it's music, whether it's poetry, whether it's maths, just have a passion, and every night go to sleep, and when you wake up, go to sleep with a dream, and when you wake up, do everything in your power to make that dream come true. And that's just the word or the speech that I want to pass along.
So I assume that even though it's all been so glorious and happy endings, and that there's been some deceptions along the way.
Of course, because every success is like there's the failure part. It's like you don't become an Olympian or an Olympic medalist without losing some fights, and these struggles, they make you reinvent yourself, progress, and yeah, of course there were many challenges in Africa. There were many challenges all the way along. There was the funding challenge. There was the condition challenge, having the partners. There were so many challenges, but I mean, you just have to find solutions all along the way.
So let's go back to the studying part, because I know that you studied journalism.
Yes.
While you were still competing, right?
I studied journalism. I have a bachelor's degree in journalism from when I was at INSEP in France. So I took a journalism. I had my journalism degree, and then I did a master in sport management through VAE, which is they give you they validate your experience requirements. And
so why journalism?
I was curious, I guess. Why? You took journalism as well, so I guess I was just curious, and I love learning all the time. I love learning, and I have interest in so many different fields. That journalism for me was just, I'm gonna get to learn all day and share conversation and talk. Wow, that sounds fun. So I took journalism, and now I'm doing an MBA at the International University of Monaco, because I want to explore the entrepreneur way of maybe finance, business, corporation, and acquire the skills as a manager. Whether it's, I have lots of experience in a nonprofit, but I think you reach a point where you have to generate profits to be able to afford giving back to nonprofits. So I would like to find a balance, and I think that through sport and all that nonprofit experience all over the world, I've acquired lots of experience, but I wanted to acquire the academic skills as well in accounting and finance and marketing and management. And so I'm taking a year off this year to learn that. And
so how is it to be back on the school bench?
Oh, you know what? I love it. I love it. I love being back at school. I'm like the first row, always like raising my hand. I love it. I love being back in school because and especially doing an MBA, because an MBA there were 15 people in class, so it's human size, and there's so much diversity in terms of there's I think 10 different nationalities in my class, different background, different areas. Some were in finance, some other were in luxury industry. Everybody comes from a different background. I come from nonprofit, so it's the experience from all of us that makes it a very, very good class, inspiring at the same time.
It's funny because I often say to the athletes, following athlete story, that remember some people have an MBA to lean on, but you have your athlete story, and you're gonna come out with both.
Yeah, that's what I
Plus,
figured.
like humanitarian, like you're gonna be a superwoman.
Oh well, it's about a time, but no, that's what I felt. I felt that it was always like either you have your Olympic background or athlete background, or either you were academic.
Mhm.
And I just felt it was important to get a bit of both. And it gives, the more experience I have and the more knowledge, the more I can structure my project and give them a bigger dimension as well.
Yeah. So is that a little bit what you're looking for as well, getting a bit of structure in life after sports?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you need structure to reach goals. You obviously need to be very, very structured. But it's knowledge too. It's very different to be structured training wise to reach a sport goal than acquire accounting. I mean, I needed the proper skills. So we'll see next year.
And what does it mean to you to be a former athlete in this environment? Is it something you think about in your daily life? Is it part of your identity?
It is, of course, it's part of my identity being a former athlete. But see, like I don't say I was an Olympian. I say I am an Olympian because I feel that this part it's not going away. But what I want is it's carrying on. So I feel that it made me who I am, and I'm proud of it because through sport, I've acquired so many important. Just the mindset, the values, and it's funny because when I'm in class, most of the time I say, "But we do that in sport. Like we'll have like everything that's like human resources or organizational behavior related." For me, it's so natural because coming from the sport community, you work with teammates, you work with coach, you work in an environment, and you know how the team is important. And that in a corporate environment, it's as important because you need to collaborate, to have great partners, work in a team to produce and achieve a result as well. So it all transits, and I think that I bring something to the class as well, coming from a sport background.
Yeah. And you hinted at it a little bit at the beginning. Your story there's been a little bit of politics involved in your own career as well.
Of course.
You came to France being a Canadian, but it actually changed nationality.
Of course.
And maybe not everybody was 100% welcoming, or how was that?
Well, in France at the time they had a program. It was the International Francophone Solidarity. So basically, I came from Canada and I had a scholarship to train 1 year in France as a Canadian. So it was perfect for me at the time. So I came, and that year I won all the tournaments representing Canada. So they said, "Wait a minute, we're funding, we're hosting her, we're training her, and she's beating us. No, it's not working." So they said, "Well, if you want to pursue your training here, then you have to become French." So I took the French citizenship, and went along. But as I said before, it's really important to have a team, to work as a team. And if it's difficult, the relationship I had with my coach was very difficult. And it's as much as I tried, sometimes it's not possible. And I wasn't allowed to change coach because she was also the national director and she was also the sélectionneur, and there were no selection criteria like in tracks, like if you ran the minima, then you're qualified. Us in our sport, there were no selection criteria. It was up to the coach, national coach. So it complicates things because if you don't, it's hard to work with the coach, and the coach makes the selection. And then when you qualify for the Olympics, when I qualified for the Olympics, my quota at the time, it was non-nominative.
What does that mean?
It means that when I qualified for the Olympics, they could send the federation could send anyone in my weight. I qualified
Okay,
friends in my weight
right.
category. So then they can send whoever, and there are no selection criteria, so they can send whoever they want with the quota. So that made it quite complicated. So yeah, it's an environment that I was trying to make the best out of that environment, but it came to a point that if I train for 4 years, I'm the best. I am 2-time European champion. I'm ranked #1 in the world. I qualified, and you want to send someone else with my quota to the Olympics? It's hard. So after I finally went to the Olympics and medal, but the story could have repeated itself. So it was very hard, like I said, because I couldn't change coach. So I tried to go back to Canada, but with the IOC, there's a rule that says for athletes with dual nationalities, if they want to change country, they need to be released by the former country. Otherwise, there's a 3-year delay that applies. So France didn't want to release me, and then with the 3-year delay, I couldn't qualify for Rio anymore. So it was very the context of my sport retirement was very different than a traditional. Well, I say traditional, but you know what? I don't think that anyone retires in a traditional context, because when you're on top, you always continue. And when you consider retirement, it's either due to injuries or there's always something. So I think for everyone, it's a process. It's a process, and there are up and downs. Like, you know, when something happens in life, everybody tells you, it happens for a reason. And at the time, I was like, it's impossible, no. And then when you try to make the best out of any situation, that's when you see, oh wow. And that day in Rio, I said, oh my God, yeah, it really happened for a reason.
Because otherwise,
yeah, and even like today, I'm so happy where I am in life, who I am, with all my choices. Like, I wouldn't change anything. And I love, like, even now I'm in school, I love the journey of just enjoying every step of the way, knowing that, okay, I want to get there, I want to do this, but as it goes by, like, even with the 2 athletes, I was with them this week and in Monaco for this workout, and our best memories are under the rain in Abidjan when we struggle. Like, now we see each other in a beautiful context of being in Monaco as an Olympic champion. But our best memories, or the stories we'll always talk about, is, do you remember that day? Oh my God, do you remember that day at training when I sprained my ankle and I felt, oh wow, and it's all that makes it beautiful. It's the struggles that gives value to the victory at the same time. So it's, looking back at it, I wouldn't change anything. Well, you would always do stuff differently, but it is what it is. And
here comes the $1 million question.
Watch out.
Where do you see yourself?
In 5 years? I was asked that recently, how I see myself in 5 years, and I answered happy and passionate. Because I think that everything else is irrelevant. As long as I'm happy and I'm passionate, then in 5 years I'll be exactly where I should be, or I wanted to be, or I have to be. Like, I really think that it really comes down to that. And if you're passionate, you'll be successful. And if you're successful, chances are you'll be happy if it's a success that comes from passion. So I mean, for me, it's all linked, and I think that the most important is to be surrounded by people you love, to be with a great team, to share, to be. Sometimes I find that people are scared. They don't want to share their experience, or they don't want to volunteer. If they don't have an immediate gain, they don't want to give. Through my journey, I've really observed that the more you give, the more you get, and the more you share, the more you learn, and the more you open up, the more it creates an energy, and it's possible to achieve. And I'm never going to change that.
So if you were to give advice to any other athlete who wants to do humanitarian or wants to do some kind of nonprofit, what would you say? How do you get started? Would you get involved with an association?
I would say
Would you-
just try and contribute. The more passions, the more you try out. I tried tennis. I love tennis now. I love skiing. I love skiing. Like you try out new experience, and that's how you discover. That's how you discover new things. There's so many ways to help. There are association, there's organization, federation. You can just do it on yourself. Like sometimes people think they have to. In Africa, before I had someone from when I was doing journalism, I had someone from I think it was the organization. I think it was Action contre la faim or Oxfam, or it was some type of non-profit organization that came, and she spoke to us. And at the end of the speech, I said, "Oh my God, I really want to do this one day. How can I volunteer?"
Mhm.
And she said, "How can I volunteer and do a mission in Africa?" She said, "Oh no, in Africa we only send our employees. You cannot volunteer in Africa." And she said the volunteer is for donation, the people that ask for donation. So I said, "Oh well, that's not the experience I want to have." And then I searched on the internet for ways to really go, and I didn't know exactly if I wanted to go build shelters or I just wanted to contribute. And what I saw on the internet, I had to pay to do humanitarian. So I said, well, that's not really the way my vision of doing humanitarian. So I said, okay, what can I give now? And that was right before the Olympics. I didn't have a lot of money to give away in a big way. But I said, okay, well, I don't have money, I don't have a structure, I don't have 100 people, but I have expertise. I have my knowledge in my sport, and that's very valuable to some other people. So I'm just gonna go and give that to the people. And that's what I did basically. That's why I called former teammates and I said, okay, and we organized seminars. So I would just go, I would talk to kids in school, but I would also I went to the federation, I shared my experience with them, I went to clubs, and then I just spoke with the people, with the coach, and I just tried to share all the expertise I had learned at INSEP in France. And that's how, and in a way, that's how you contribute to education, to the development of sport. And for the education, I met someone that had social library. So he's based in a very extremely modest suburb, and he has a little bookshop with a few books on a shelter, and it's a volunteer process, and they try to contribute to alphabetization and learn how to read and write at this bookshop. But it's non-profit. And so I met him, I said, wow, we have to develop that as much as we can. And then I got books from Canada, I got books from all over, so whenever I'd go to Africa, I could ship in books. Or you always try to find solution. Obviously, they were used books, but a book is a book. Like, you do with your means.
Mhm.
And so whoever wants to contribute, whatever their expertise is, they can contribute. If it's not money or if it's not object or material, your knowledge has value.
Well, thank you so much for encouraging people and for doing everything that you do. I think it's a fantastic use of a medal, first of all, and good luck in your 5-year plan and beyond.
Oh, of course. Thank you very much, and it was great to speak to you. And you've inspired me as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
I want to hear.
You seem like a very happy and passionate person yourself. So
Well,
that goal has been reached. And good luck with the podcast. I hope it's a channel.
right.